Today's video is a review video on squares and square roots and cubes and cube roots. What you want to try to do is pause the video, try the practice problems on your own, and then press play to watch me solve them out. Okay, here are our first set of practice problems, so find the value of each of the following problems. Okay, let's go over the first question. I see that it says 35 to the second power, or 35 squared. So that means 35 squared, so we have a square, it's 35 for all the sides. So we need to do 35 times 35 to find the answer. So I'll do my workout over here. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 2 is 17. 0 to hold my place. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. Add it up. 5, 12, carry the 1, 2, and 1. So 35 squared equals 1,225. For the next question, we have 56 squared, or 56 to the second power. So if you want to think about that by drawing out a square, that means all the sides equal 56. And in order to get the area, you would do 56 times 56. When you solve out the math for that, you get 3,136. So 56 squared equals 3,136. The next one was 64 squared, which really means 64 times 64. When you do out the multiplication, you get 4,096. So 64 squared, or to the second power, equals 4,096. Now we're going to find the square root of 289. You want to start your cake and figure out a prime number you could divide 289. For this one, you would have had to go through a couple prime numbers before figuring out that you can divide it by the prime number 17. 289 divided by 17 gives you 17. Since we're doing square root, we need two groups. We have 17 times 17, so we have a 17 that goes into each group. So the square root of 289 equals 17. For the square root of 400, you want to start your cake. You can divide by 2 and get 200, 2 again, and get 100, 5 and get 20, 5 and get 4, then divide 4 by 2 and get 2. Remember, it doesn't matter what order you divide by, you're still going to end up with the same prime factorization. So let's write out what we found in our prime factorization. So I have 2 times 2 times 5 times 5 times 2 times 2. Since we're doing square root, we need two groups. I see that I have 4 2s, so I'm going to put 2 2s into each group. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We used all of our 2s, and then we have 2 5s left, so I'm going to put 1 5 into each group. Let's figure out what each group equals. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 5 is 20. 2 times 2 is 4, times 5 is 20. So the square root of 400 equals 20. Now we're going to do the square root of 484, so start your cake. Divide it by 2, you get 242. Divide by 2, and you get 121. You could divide 121 by 11, and you would get 11. So we'll write out our prime factorization on the side. 2 times 2 times 11 times 11. Since we're doing a square root, we need 2 groups. I have 2 2's, so I'm going to put 1 into each group. Now I have 2 11's, so I'm going to put 1 into each group. 2 times 11 is 22. 2 times 11 is 22. So the square root of 484 equals 22. Now pause the video and try some practice problems with cubes and cube roots. For the first one, we have 8 cubed, or 8 to the third power, which really means 8 times 8 times 8. So 8 times 8 is 64. 64 times 8, you do out the math, and you get 512. So the cube of 8 equals 512. For the next one, we have 3 cubed, or 3 to the third power, so that means 3 times 3 times 3, by itself 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 equals 27. So 3 cubed equals 27. Now we have 10 cubed, so that's 10 times 10 times 10. 10 times 10 is 100, times 10 equals 1,000. So 10 cubed equals 1,000. Now we're going to do the cube root of 125, and we know it's the cube root because of the 3 in our radical. So that tells us we're going to be doing the cube root, and we're going to break it up into 3 groups. So start your cake. So we have 125. You could divide 125 by 5, and you would get 25. You could divide 25 by 5, and you would get 5. Since we're doing cube roots, that means we need 3 groups. So we'll write out our prime factorization, break it into 3 groups, and I have 3 5s, so I'm going to put 1 5 into each group. Since each group equals 5, then that means my cube root of 125 equals 5. Now we're looking for the cube root of 512, so we're going to start our cake. Divide it by 2, and you get 256. We can again divide by 2, and we have 128. Divide by 2, get 64. 2, 32, 2, 16. I'm going to continue my cake over here since I ran out of room. So I have 16. We could do 16 divided by 2, and you get 8. Divided by 2, and you get 4. Divided by 2, and you get 2. So let's write out our prime factorization. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 2's. So I'll write that over here. Okay, so I have 9 2's, and I need to split it up into 3 groups. So 1, 2, 3. Since I have 9 2's, that means I could put 3 2's into each group. Two times 2 is 4, times 2 equals 8. So each group would end up equaling 8. So now we know that the cube root, don't forget that 3 in your radical, of 512 equals 8. Okay, for the last problem, we had the cube root of 729. So start your cake. We can divide 729 by 3, and you would get 243. You could divide 243 by 3 again, and you get 81. Divide 81 by 3, and you get 27. 27 by 3, and you get 9. 9 by 3, and you get 3. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 threes. 1, we need to break it up into 3 groups because we're doing the cube root. So we have 1, 2, 3 groups. Since we have 6 threes, that means we could do 2 threes into each group. Three times 3 is 9. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 3 is 9. So the cube root of 729 equals 9. That's the end of our review video, so I hope you found this helpful.